Hello and welcome to Movie Vault 666. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be looking at the film The Last Shark. Now, typically when you discuss shark films, it's very hard to avoid discussing the film Jaws as well, and in the case of this film, that is even more difficult. The reason for this is that the film was originally an Italian film called L'Ultimo Squalo, and was distributed by a company known as Film Ventures International. FVI was a company that made a large amount of money by distributing Italian films throughout America in the early 1970s and early 80s. The studio had a rather surprising success in ripping off Jaws when they released the film Grizzly in 1976, and off the back of that success, in 1981 they released The Last Shark. The film had an extremely successful first week of box office release and made a large amount of money by imitating Jaws, and was even released with the title Jaws 3 in several countries. However, the similarities did not go unnoticed by Universal Studios, and the film was pulled from cinemas in the United States after the studio filed a lawsuit against the film for being too derivative of Jaws. So does this movie deserve its cult status? Just how similar is it to Jaws? Well, let's dive in and find out as we prepare to watch The Last Shark. Fair enough. Normally when I watch these kinds of films to try and cash in on another's reputation, there's normally an element of deception that goes into making the viewer think they've bought a quality product long enough that they don't demand a refund. So credit goes to The Last Shark for admitting right up front that it's not a well-made product. I mean, they even got a soundtrack that exactly matches the level of horror provided by this film. This is the good life, killed by marine life. This windsurfing montage should distract your outrage. Don't ask for money back. Excuse me. 3 minutes of that just doesn't seem like enough, does it? Especially when all it does is establish some body count and provide a way to transition to some crowbarred-in exposition explained through a conversation between what would appear to be sorcerers.
Of course, we all know that our own local surf sailor, Mike Patterson's pretty sure that he's got that trophy wrapped up. And just to make sure, he's been putting in 8 hours a day for the last couple of weeks.
Where'd you get your input, Hoyt? Mike's just about sleeping on his board these days.
Of course, Billy Joe Wells figures he's got a chance, too. Don't you, Billy Joe?
Here we go again.
WSGA wants to remind one and all that Saturday marks the beginning of the Centennial Week festivities. After the windsurfing event, Committee Chairman William Wells Sr. has graciously provided the grounds of his estate for an open house barbecue. Now, I'm sure that no one will think for a moment that Mr. Wells' generosity has anything to do with the fact that he's running for governor in the November election.
Oh, what's this? A greedy political antagonist in a shark movie? How original!
What's he got against my old man?
Makes no difference, Billy Joe. WSGA listeners don't vote anyways, and your dad knows it.
WSGA listeners are too brain dead to vote, and your dad knows that. Well, yes, these shots are awkward without any sound. Perhaps we could give them a new score. But what? No, there's no way they'd be that blatant. Suspenseful. This is then followed up by a great B-movie tradition, the unedited car parking scene. This just cannot be edited down. It's a classic fail in the style of so many bad movies. They do eventually trim down the shot of her walking into the house from the stalker cam there. Boo! How am I supposed to figure out how she got into the house? The woman is named Gloria Benton, and she is returning home to her husband, Peter Benton, played by the film's resident star, James Franciscus, who is probably best known for his role as not Charlton Heston in Beneath the Planet of the Apes. Anyway, they talk about some boring committee meeting when some of the kids from the beach, including his daughter Jenny, arrive to inform him of the missing surfer. Now there are a couple of things I'd like to talk about here. Number one, what's with the scoring?
Okay. Guess I've used up all the excuses I can think of.
Yes. Daddy, we need your help.
Oh, what's the matter?
Mikey disappeared.
Disappeared? What do you mean?
He was out surfing, about 200 yards out, and all of a sudden we didn't see him anymore.
Especially when discussing the disappearance of an almost certainly dead teenager. And two, check out this kid.
We were watching him. Looked like he was doing fine, and then, like Jenny said, he was gone. No sign of him or anything.
Wow, either he has the world's greatest radio announcer voice, or that's some pretty slick dubbing right there. In the meantime, the wife heads down to the town meeting regarding the election for governor, whilst James Franciscus takes the kids out in a speedboat to look for opening kill character. This also helps introduce an experienced older sea captain. Isn't that similar to another shark movie? What was it called? Speaking of which, here comes more underwater footage, but they've covered up the awkward silence with some new scoring. So whilst the wife character chats with the obvious evil town official character, Governor Tightlips,
Problem? What kind of problem?
the sea captain gets to play detective.
One thing's for sure. It wasn't a floating chainsaw.
I find it's always best to try and practice your stand-up during a search for a missing person.
One thing's for sure. It wasn't a floating chainsaw.
God damn it, sea captain, you had one job! So, with the somewhat familiar sounding shark music playing, the sea captain attempts to radio the Coast Guard whilst the last shark knocks Jenny into the water.
Oh, darn it, Dave! I'm all soaked.
What a day! Could things get any worse? Actually, that is the worst thing that happens, and the whole scene just sort of peters out. Meanwhile, the main characters attempt to convince the evil governor to close the beaches, and he answers the phone and the scene pretty much ends. Okay, well now James Franciscus is answering the phone. This will surely be the call informing him that the governor is planning on holding the big ski event, and to hell with the risks. Oh, it actually turns out the Coast Guard recovered something and they have the search. I mean, who is going to even find these clues? The main characters? They had to come back to land to speak to the governor for that integral scene. I mean, it's not like them slowly uncovering the clues whilst isolated in the middle of the sea would have been, exciting or interesting or anything. So the boat's been dredged up, and going aboard, the main characters and the governor discover a severed arm, and even with just a casual look it's clear that a shark couldn't have done this without the ability to fly.
God. I better start thinking about that regatta bill.
Couldn't it have been something else? Couldn't it have been an explosion?
You know, I'm sticking with the floating chainsaw theory for now. Anyway, Governor Tightlips decides in a bold and original move that he's keeping the beaches open, even as the remains of an all-too-familiar surfboard begin to wash ashore. So following the obligatory shark cage scene, and a scene in which the governor outlines his defence plans in what resembles an amateur weather report, James Franciscus and the sea captain begin to outline the best courses of action against the shark.
He wants to kill you. So you have two choices. One, get out of his way. The other is to hold your ground.
I say we let him go!
So now, because the film doesn't want to overexcite us or anything, we're treated to a minute of shots establishing that the beach exists. Now, one of the reasons that Jaws did so well, and sharks are such a fear-inducing symbol in horror movies, is the iconic fin. Watching that fin close in on a target and knowing the deadliness it represents creates excellent tension. The shape is scary enough that you don't have to show the whole creature, and you can keep the lid on revealing the full shark until later in the film. However, The Last Shark has shown time and again that it can't understand why the movie is ripping off as a success, so instead prepare to be scared by the boy that it arbitrarily got attached to. Doesn't that strike fear into your heart, knowing what lies beneath the surface? Presumably the rest of a ball, and maybe a rope, I mean. In fact, despite what appears to be shots of the civilians running out of the water, the beach is calm. Presumably because nobody on Earth could be afraid of this. Well, until it's too late, of course.
Get out of the water!
A floating chainsaw, motherfuckers! Actually, the true horror is just about to begin. But as the big windsurfing race begins, the buoy begins moving towards the surface, causing the stuntmen to jump off of their boards.
What the hell's going on with that boy?
And why did he throw himself off of his surfboard? Anyway, with most of the stuntmen now in the water, they begin to flee onto the beach. This guy even falls over before remembering that there doesn't appear to be a prop for the shark and it couldn't get into water that shallow either way. So with most of the stuntmen out of the water, the last shark turns his attention towards the mayor's aid in a scene that easily makes the movie superior to Jaws.
Lovely. Come on, zoom in.
I might as well stop the review here. That might be one of the most incredible bad movie moments I've ever had the fortune of witnessing. I mean, the bad dummy effect, the crowd shots. Steven Spielberg is obviously a hack who couldn't have appreciated something as pure and brilliant as this moment. I almost can't carry on. I'm just so humbled by everything that's just happened. But things only get sillier as perhaps the derpiest shark model in existence appears for the briefest second. So I would complain about this shark model more, but to be honest, I'm actually pretty surprised they even made a model. I was honestly thinking we were just going to get that boy being dragged around for the rest of the film. So with the shark having seemingly killed no one, well, maybe except this guy, but having ruined a perfectly good windsurfing competition, James Franciscus and the sea captain head out to hunt the shark. And coincidentally, some of the teens from earlier, including the governor's kids, also head out on a suicidal quest to find the shark. Our two intrepid main characters eventually trade the shark back to its lair. However, the shark not only survives being attacked with harpoon and explosives, it even begins to trap the main characters inside using rocks by bashing its unusually stiff form against them. Fortunately, the sea captain brought explosives. However, James Franciscus ends up in mid-peril as communicated by misacting over here.
Peter, you're down to 3 minutes air.
Despite this setback, the main characters return to shore more or less unharmed when the governor shows up.
That's a conservative estimate. Wouldn't you say that, Peter?
Hit him with 2 power hits. Just kept coming. You got to look at him.
You've got to look at him, Mr. Wells. It was eye to eye.
How'd you get back in so quick?
Back? Back from where?
Oh, we just crossed you on your way out.
What are you talking about? I haven't been out my boat all week.
Your boy took your boat out, Mr. Wells. He said he had your okay. There were 4 of them. Your Jenny, too, Mr. Benton. He said they were going off Eagle Rock.
With the main characters now aware of the situation, things can finally happen in the other scene, as the teenagers attempt to lure the shark in. Unfortunately, when the shark does turn up, the prop gun the teens brought with them is ineffective against stock footage. Even worse, the shark has its old trick to fall back on.
Coming right at us!
Actually, this time the boat is too heavy, sadly enough, and the shark has to settle for jamming the propeller with its own dorsal fin.
Jamming the throttle!
Seizing the opportunity to strike, the shark attaches itself to the giant kebab the teens have dangling over the side. Meanwhile, Jenny takes another trip into the drink, and in a shocking scene, the shark does something extremely blurry and we cut to an ambulance. In the aftermath, it's emotional scenes all around as Jenny is hospitalised in front of a helpless James Franciscus, whilst the governor admits to his blame before confronting his son.
He'll be able to talk to you.
Dad, I only wanted to help you.
I promised myself I wouldn't cry. And these scenes keep on coming as Jenny's mother is confronted with the situation of her daughter having been hospitalised. The grief and stress washes over her. A young woman who even if she pulls through will have lost so much. It's just so sad.
Oh, God. It just isn't fair.
And okay, whatever, I guess no one was getting invested in that scene anyway, why bother? So James Franciscus' character, caught up moping over his crippled daughter, is up to the governor and his fabulous dress sense to save the day. Taking his helicopter, he decides to bake the shark into something, I'm sure. However, as he attempts to do whatever it was he intended to do, the shark fiendishly morphs into stock footage, which is far too powerful for the helicopter, and manages to knock the governor into the water. Phase the pilot, who continues to scan the ocean with an infinitely bored expression. And then, somehow, whatever this is happens. Following some panning, including a scene in the remains of the helicopter, or perhaps just a sunken boat, because there is always a sunken boat in these sorts of movies, we finally arrive at the climax of the movie. Tension has increased because a reporter who was previously so irrelevant I never mentioned him before hired Tom Cruise to tie some bait to the pier. However, that tension dissipates when the film cuts to some of Jenny's friends describing her condition with all the deep-seated emotion of Microsoft Sam.
I know it'll take time. How was she when you left?
She's much better. They gave her a sedative. She's asleep now.
Now, this little baby's special. See these shells? 2.5 detonation. Enough to charge and open up a tank.
Hey, what'll that do to my camera?
You just keep them out of the line of fire.
You bet.
So at this point, I really must admit that I have no idea why most of these people are here. I mean, okay, the reporter, the main characters, the newly introduced shark hunter guy, fair enough, but why all the bystanders? Oh, that's why. As the people on the raft get dragged out by the shark hunter gets knocked into and drops his rifle whilst the reporter speaks to Tom Cruise, who appears to be voiced by a different actor now.
Jimmy, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Somebody get us some help down here before this shark has us for lunch. Call a Coast Guard.
You think this thing's gonna work?
Yeah, sure. Somebody get us some help down here before this shark has us for lunch. Call a Coast Guard.
With the survivors trapped and no help coming, the shark pops out to say hello. And after literally chewing the scenery, the shark manages to knock Tom Cruise off the boat and, well, makes short work of him. Fortunately, because the filmmakers don't understand how boats work and because we only have 5 minutes left to wrap up the movie, James Franciscus somehow finds the survivors. The shark hunter gets eaten, having contributed literally nothing to the film, and the shark outwits James Franciscus' character and traps him alone on the raft. It turns out that the sea captain must have died during the earlier sunken boat sequence somehow, and then James Franciscus is so cut up about it he lets the shark eat his corpse. Mostly because he's wearing explosives, because how else could they rip off the ending of Jaws? James Franciscus then blows the shark up with a much less memorable one-liner. He then handles being interviewed pretty well, and heads home with some minor characters. And that was The Last Shark, and I've got to say, don't think it was very original. So yes, The Last Shark rips off Jaws in pretty much every aspect of production. The music, the basic characters, the ending. It is very easy to see why FEI was sued by Universal, particularly as the film was even released as Jaws 3 in several areas. In fact, the failure of this film, particularly due to the lawsuit, was one of the key factors that led to FEI shutting down. In fact, by 1984, following other failures, owner Edward Montoro is said to have stolen $1 million and fled never to be seen again. All of which makes me think this film definitely is worth a watch. The comparisons to Jaws, the history surrounding FEI and Universal Studios, the ridiculous action scenes, every single thing makes this film worth a watch. This film is like Jaws with all of the subtlety removed. And with Jaws having had so many mechanical problems with the shark, it makes you wonder, had they gone with the original script and had full access to the shark, would it have been the masterpiece we know today, or could it have ended up being something more like The Last Shark? Probably not, but it makes you think. Anyway, I've been Chris, and I'll see you next time on Movie Vault 666.